Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning Five here on Monday, July 31st, 2023. I am Dave Biddle, very happy to be joined by Patrick Murphy. Before we get into Buckeye football news, and there's a lot of good Buckeye football news, let's get into our latest sponsor for the Bucknuts Morning Five, Manscaped.com. Manscaped.com. And you can go right now, if you're listening to the show, you can go right now and get 20% off any order. This place is awesome. I highly recommend it. Patrick uses it as well. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code Bucknuts at manscaped.com. 20% off, free shipping with the code Bucknuts at manscaped.com. And, Patrick, it's a very, very good company. You use it yourself, my friend.
Yeah, you can't tell if you're watching this video. I haven't shaved in a while, but when I do shave, I honestly do have it. I was going to go grab it upstairs, but to prove that I actually use it, but I didn't. But I do. I have the razor, and you can be part of their membership club. They send you stuff each month. You get new razors, but you also get stuff to spray in your shoes to keep them from smelling bad. A whole bunch of stuff that they send. It's a different thing every month. Good deal. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's got a little bit of everything. So if you're a man and you want to look good, go to manscaped.com and get your discount using the code Bucknuts. Get 20% off. All right. After only talking about him for about 10 months straight, Aaron Scott is a Buckeye. He announced last night, as he is wont to do, he kept the suspense thick, and I have no problem with it. He pulled the Ohio State hat out of a Michigan bag. Credit to that kid. In this day and age, to keep it that close to the vest, that's hard to do. But the bottom line, if you're a Buckeye fan, Aaron Scott, 5-star corner from Springfield, is a Buckeye picking Ohio State over the Wolverines. Your thoughts, Patrick?
Yeah, first of all, and I tweeted this last night, I love that it was a legitimate commitment. It wasn't like people already knew what was going to happen. As you said, Dave, he kept it quiet. It was very old school, had the hats and the bags and all that stuff. So it just, you don't get those as much anymore, right? Kids tweet out a video or a commitment graphic and everybody kind of already knows. So I liked the feel of that. Obviously good news for the Buckeyes. The defensive role that I think the team was on for a little bit in recruiting has kind of slowed here. They obviously did not get a couple guys, had a decommitment from, I think it's 2025 class. But look, Aaron Scott's a big deal. We've talked about him, as you said, for quite some time. You needed to get him. You needed to get Bryce West to lock down two of the top corners in Ohio. You did that as Ohio State. So, look, this is good. Certainly a talented player, a guy who, if you watched his commitment, certainly doesn't lack for confidence. I think he's going to fit in well with this Buckeye defensive back room. If you read the story Steve Wiltfong posted on 247 Sports and Bucknuts, talked about his relationship with Tim Walton and wanting to be, a guy that kids in Ohio grew up watching because that's what he did. I think you'd love to hear that if you're a Buckeye fan. And certainly the talent is there, as you mentioned, with his ranking and whatnot. That the number one player in the state of Ohio in our rankings, number 3 cornerback overall. So big get for the Buckeyes, no doubt.
Yeah, and I don't think we can understate this. Imagine right now the reaction this morning if they didn't get him. Let's just go there just for a second. They got Bryce West, as you mentioned. They've gotten some other really good defensive recruits, but overall, as usual, it's more tilted to the offense so far. Maybe not anymore now. I mean, they got the number 1 defensive tackle in the country. Now they've got a couple of 5-star corners. Well, Bryce West isn't a 5-star, high 4-star, 3 really good corners, now a 5-star corner in Aaron Scott. But what do you think the reaction would be this morning? I mean, I'm setting you up on a tee right there. You can just knock it out of the park for me. What would the reaction be this morning if Tim Walton and the Buckeyes missed out on Mr. Aaron Scott?
Not only missed out, but if he doesn't go to Ohio State, good shot he's going to Michigan because while Oregon was a finalist, I think most people thought it was a 2-horse race between the Buckeyes and the Wolverines. So not only would you be missing out on a really talented player, but he's going to your rival who's beaten you 2 years in a row and has a lot of defensive momentum right now. So, yeah, the reactions would be pretty bad. I had a couple friends in a group message, bunch of Buckeye fans there texting beforehand, and they were already fearing for the worst just because nobody knew, so to speak. And they were not happy if he was going to end up at Michigan. So, yeah, certainly a big deal that he did not choose that route.
And what a feather in Tim Walton's cap. You can easily say, well, these guys are all in-state guys, but like there was a lot of smoke that Bryce West could go elsewhere. I always thought that way. I mean, good luck getting a Glenville kid out of state that Ohio State really wants. I've never seen that happen. Springfield, we've literally seen that happen. I mean, trade to Priest, that happened. And there was a lot of smoke that Aaron Scott was going to go to Michigan. So I give Tim Walton credit here. You can say, oh, it's in state. Springfield's 40 minutes down the road, whatever. No, man. I mean, I think that was a really good job by Tim Walton and Ryan Day and Ryan Pantoni and the entire staff.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the way that these two games have gone these last 2 years. If you are a player, even in Ohio, you're going to consider Michigan more than you were the last few years. And I know that Jim Harbaugh and the Buckeyes, or the Wolverines, had, given him kind of the blueprint of some of the defensive backs from Ohio that have gone on to Michigan, Charles Woodson being one of the main examples. And so, look, that there is a pathway there. I know it's been a while, but with the way things have gone and on the field, I think high school kids certainly are looking at Michigan and saying, you can win a Big Ten championship. You can go to the playoff there. It's not just Ohio State between those two programs right now. And so, yeah, I think there was a reason to have some concern in this. But as we said, he winds up with the good guys from our perspective.
And one more thing, we'll get into practice starting on Wednesday. Like now, I still don't think they're going to finish with the number one class in the country, but I don't want to say I don't care, but like I've seen the best recruiting classes that have come through Ohio State in the last 20 years. The four best I can think of all finished number 2 in the country: 2002, 2013, 2017, and 2021. So I'm fine if they finish number 2 in the country, but like this puts them in the running at least, Patrick. Getting Aaron Scott, they're still in on Dylan Stewart and others. Again, if I had to bet, I think they're going to finish second or third, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I just didn't want them to finish like, and this is where like it's a first world problem. I didn't want them to finish like 5th or 6th. Like I feel like now they're going to finish like 2nd or 3rd, and that's really good. And they got a shot at number 1, although I think Georgia's probably going to hang on to that.
Yeah, I've always said if you're in that top 3-ish, and it depends on the year, right, and what the talent's like, but you're in a pretty good spot. And I think, look, this class has to finish well defensively, right? I mean, the offensive talent is already there. They need to close on some guys defensively to, as you said off the top, kind of balance off this class and add on that side of the ball, because that's obviously been the Achilles heel in those big games. So, yeah, I mean, it would be awesome for fans and whatnot, and they could promote that they finish with the number 1 class in the country. But you want to close that gap on Georgia. You want to keep distance from some of the others, add those defensive commits, continue what you hope is positive momentum from this Aaron Scott commitment, and then stay in that top 3, as you mentioned.
Oh, boy. Get down with the sickness. Great song from Disturbed. To get down with the sickness. We're about ready to get down with the sickness, and I'm ready for it. That means Ohio State football is here. We went to Big Ten Media Days this past week. Practice starts this week. There's no there used to be like Big Ten Media Days and you get like a week and a half off, then practice will start. Like none of that. No. Big Ten Media Days, bam. Now we get practice Wednesday. We're going to actually meet with Ryan Day tomorrow. That'll be cool. And then practice starts Wednesday, and we're going to be there. All of practice is open. What are you most looking forward to seeing, Mr. Patrick Murphy?
I think it's kind of seeing where the storylines we've talked about all offseason stand. And Randy talked about some of this at Big Ten Media Days. The offensive line, where are guys, especially adding a guy like Josh Simmons into the mix? How does he fit in? Where is he in the pecking order? And I expect that to change throughout camp, but at least to start, kind of where he'll be. Quarterback situation, I don't know if we'll learn too much in day 1. Remember, this is without pads early on in fall camp, but still just kind of seeing where these quarterbacks are at, getting a chance to see them go through a full practice is always enlightening in kind of where they stand. Devin Brown, obviously coming off the hand injury. And then, defensive side of the ball, I'm really interested. We're talking corners with Aaron Scott. Okay, what's the pecking order behind Denzel Burke there? Because Jordan Hancock, we've heard a lot of good things, but he was hurt most of last season, so we didn't get to see maybe that ability that the coaches saw in preseason. And then Davis and Igbinosun, we like what we saw at Ole Miss. We like what we saw in spring practice. Is he the number 2 cornerback? Is Jordan Hancock or one of the other guys kind of in the mix there? While we're talking the secondary, where are all these safeties lining up? I know Sonny Styles is the name everyone talks about, but like, is Josh Proctor still involved here? Where's Lathan Ransom lining up? Again, these are all things that I think will evolve throughout fall camp. But I do think it's always interesting to see how the Buckeyes kind of open things up to begin the year in terms of practice and kind of where guys stand coming out of those summer. And it's not like it used to be, right? Coaches have some time with players during the summer. So there can be some changing of things from spring to fall, right? And so I think that's kind of where everybody is in the pecking order at their positions.
Yeah, as Coach Day said at Big Ten Media Days when we expected this, that we would have bet a lot of money on this and would have won. Although maybe the odds would have been so and not in our favor, we wouldn't have won that much. That he was not going to name his starting quarterback until midway through camp, and he didn't even commit that he's definitely going to do that. He said someone has to separate themselves, but that is what he wants to do. Is midway through camp, roughly 2.5 weeks through camp, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, wants to name a starter. That's what he's done in the past. But he did admit it's different this year. It's much closer this year than it's been, even though there's been like the charade even in 2019 when it was Justin Fields, Gunnar Hoke, and Chugs going into camp. It was like, we haven't named a starter yet. It's like, okay, whatever. He even admitted like in 2020, like it was, or excuse me, 2021 with CJ, Jack Miller, and true freshman Kyle McCord that we went into camp and it was all like, oh, it's an open competition. He basically admitted, no, it was CJ's job. He said, this is different. Now, I think you would probably agree it's going to be Kyle McCord's job. Correct me if I'm wrong. What did you make of Ryan Day's comments about how close the job is, about when he wants to name a starter? And do you feel like it's Kyle McCord?
Yeah, I mean, I've been in agreement with you. I think Kyle McCord is ahead at the very least. And Ryan Day even said, and I think this is the most we've gotten out of him, that I forget how the question was asked, but he said, if there is any separation right now, it's because of Kyle having played in more games, right? Which I think we all kind of expect. So it was nice to hear that. Also thought it was interesting that he was asked about, could this go into the season? And obviously that's not what you want in a quarterback competition. You want to have the guy, like you said, a couple weeks before the season to kind of establish himself. But I don't know if Ryan Day would play 2 quarterbacks early on, especially given not that Indiana's the best team in the Big Ten, but you're opening on the road in the Big Ten. Could you go into that game really with no starter named? And I'm not talking like what Urban Meyer did in 2015 when he just didn't name the starter, but Cardale was definitely the starter heading into the season. How would you play both guys in that game other than, Ohio State gets up big? I assume that Ryan Day would like to avoid that situation, but if there isn't separation, then maybe he is more willing to do that than I would have guessed. And look, I think if there isn't separation for a while, you don't need to panic on that. I think it could just be that both guys are really good, and they're both continuing to get better, but they just haven't kind of one guy hasn't established himself yet. So I imagine, like you said, it'll happen roughly halfway through fall camp. I do think Kyle McCord will be the guy, but it will be interesting to kind of see how they do here in these first few practices.
What do you, if you're a Buckeye fan, what's your biggest concern? Is it the offensive line or is it the defense giving up big plays or anything defensively? Jim Knowles, you're not sold on Jim Knowles. Is it offensive line? Is it something else? If you're a Buckeye fan, what's your biggest concern?
For me, it's offensive line, and I've stuck with that throughout the offseason. Look, if you need this offense to be elite, right? And that doesn't happen if your offensive line isn't good enough to protect for whichever quarterback's back there or open holes for the running back. Because we don't have a ton of confidence in this group right now, that to me is the biggest concern. I think defensively, yes, you still need to see it. I think year 2 of Jim Knowles, things will be better. Look, with the defense they had last year, yes, they lost to Michigan, but they almost beat Georgia and probably would have gone on to win the national championship game. If you have a good enough offense, and that includes the offensive line, you can still get some things done in college football. So that would be priority number 1 for me in terms of concerns. And the defense is certainly a part of it. I would say like 1B, maybe even 2, because I do think there will be improvements. But I think it starts with that offensive line for me. And if that can't get figured out, and especially early on in fall camp, because we know those 5 need time to kind of gel. I think that could be a problematic situation for Ohio State, especially because, you have some of those early games after the Indiana game, but you got to go to Notre Dame in week 4. Not that I think Notre Dame has the same talent as Ohio State, but I do think if you don't have an offensive line that's able to protect, you're going to be in some trouble on the road there. And, as you look down the schedule, Penn State at Wisconsin, you have to go to Michigan at the end of the year. So I think for me, certainly the offensive line is the biggest thing. And I need to see improvement from the defense for sure, but I need this offense to be what it has been these past few years under Ryan Day in order to know that the Buckeyes are really in that upper echelon of teams again this year.
Last thing for you, my friend. What do you make of the media schedule? We're only getting 2 full practices open to the media, but we got tons of interviews. Just what do you make of, maybe they'll add to it, I don't know. What do you make of the media schedule for fall camp?
As you know, we've discussed it. I'm a little disappointed we don't get more opportunities at practice to be out there. I think that's some of the most enlightening stuff we get in fall camp, because we obviously don't get it during the season. Talking to players, coaches is great, but sometimes you need to see it with your own eyes, right? Or sometimes you need to confirm what's said by the players or coaches, because they're not trying to give away secrets, right? So a little disappointing there. I think last year we got to see parts of at least 4 practices. This year we do get 2 more interview days, so that will be nice. Certainly plenty of content we'll bring to the Bucknuts readers. Look, it's definitely possible that throughout fall camp, as happened in spring, they open up a day that maybe we aren't expecting. We got to see a scrimmage day during spring, especially early on here before they really kind of get into the meat and potatoes of things. That would be great if that happens. But I was a little disappointed that early on, or at least initially, we won't have as many open windows as we did a year ago. And we missed one of the days that fans are going to be out there, which I thought we were going to get those ones. So look, we'll just have to trust the people that paid the money to be out there to report to us, so then we can report to other people what happened at, I think it's that second practice that we're not at, that the fans are.
The rare time, like we're usually the conduit to the fans. That one day the fans will be the conduit to us.
I should have paid the $30. I should have done it.
We still can. I mean, we still could. I'm just not going to do it out of principle. It's kind of like paying for the blue check mark, which I had for years on Twitter. I'm not going to pay for it. Like I'm not going to. I'll give it. If you want to give it to me, I'll X whatever. Like I'll take it. Like my 40,000 plus followers wouldn't mind it, but I'm not going to pay for it. Like I don't care either way. I do care about this though. I mean, if you like men's skincare like I do, we've got the best men's skincare company in the country, Caldera Labs. And again, you can get 20% off thanks to the Bucknuts Morning 5. Use code Bucknuts. Go to calderalabs.com. Again, Patrick, I mean, this is good for old guys like me who are trying to prevent wrinkles and stuff. Even guys like you that don't have to worry about that. You can get 20% off. Use code Bucknuts. Go to calderalab.com. 20% off at calderalab.com by using code Bucknuts. Jump into skin and first impression royalty with Caldera Lab. Patrick, I use it. I love it, man. I highly recommend it. Great stuff out of Patrick Murphy. Thank you to all of you for tuning in. I appreciate it. I hope everyone has a great day.